Hi everyone! Today is day 2. I've kind of just been sitting around waiting for 2 o'clock to come, so I want to get started, but I'm going to wait until 5 past like I usually do and let people jump in and get their stuff ready and all of that sort of thing. I guess I should pretend I've got my stuff together. Apparently I have some paint on my desk. Hi! We're just going to wait until 5 past to get started. Let some people jump in and gather their stuff and all that cool thing. Sorry, my little hoop was getting stuck. I got my crazy pink top on today. I meant to look a bit more presentable than this, so we'll just pretend that I did that deliberately. Today we are going to do fun stuff. We're going to... Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, before I get started, I will get myself set up. So, because we still have 3 more minutes. Sorry about the bright light coming in from that side. It's really nice and sunny today. I think once we're done stitching, I might actually go outside and get some vitamin D happening. So hopefully you're all caught up. This is where you should be at. We did all the back stitch yesterday. Today we're going to do the actual scarf itself and the little like string of the ball of yarn. And I'm excited. I really like the stitch that does the actual scarf that looks like it's knitting. I think it's very cute. So I hope that you are looking forward to doing that as well. Hi everyone that's jumping in. We'll be able to get started in just a couple minutes. So in the pattern, the colour that we would be using today would be 4501 DMC. I'm not going to be using that today, but that doesn't mean that you can't use it today. I had an idea as I was stitching the test stitch to make it look a little different. So I'm excited about trying out this alternate way of finishing this part. So I'll be doing that today. It will be easier if you just use one color. And this is like the perfect kind of piece to do a variegated floss like 4501. So that's backwards probably for you guys, but that's the colors that it uses. It's like a pink, a cream, a green, and like a blue teal kind of color. So yeah, whatever colors you want to use, this is your piece. This is for you to do whatever you want to do with. And it's 5 past, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to move my phone up there. Let me know if that doesn't work for people. Just trying to get it right in the right spot. Okay, so today, if you saw me yesterday, you probably heard my really squeaky needle. I have changed my needle, so hooray! So the 2 colours I'm going to be using today are going to be 32, and I'm going to start with 32. And so we want to have all 6 strands for this. And I've got a little, well, actually quite a long cut of just 2 strands of this colour, so just get that out of the way. You are going to want to have a really long piece cut off. The length of my arm and across my chest is how much I've cut off. Just grabbing some scissors. I'm just going to thread my needle. And we're going to do our quilter's knot, so I'll show you how to do that again. Just getting it to unwind a bit. Alright, so we want to pinch with one hand, wrap 1, 2, oh, hang on. 1, 2, 3, pinch it with the other hand, pull it through. Till we're all the way through, and that's our awesome little knot. Let's just get that little loop out of there. There we go. Okay, so we are, to be clear, in case you've just jumped on, we're going to be doing the scarf and the little string from the ball of yarn today. I am going to be doing it a little different from this piece. This is just using one floss colour. This is not all different colours mixed in. This is a variegated floss which has 4 colours sort of mixed in with it. I'm going to be using 2 colours, and I'm going to start with this very nice purple. So what we're going to do is come up just below the knitting needle, and then I would suggest using the back of your needle because it's not pointy. We're going to actually go under the back stitch from the very first. If you followed me yesterday, you've got 3 on the end here, so we want to go into the 4th back stitch. We want to not poke ourselves, and we want to pull it so that the tail is underneath what we're pulling. So that's what it's going to look like. You don't want to pull too tight, but that's the start, and we're going to do the next one now. So we're going into the next back stitch over, and we pull through. Make sure that what's attached to the needle is on top of what is just coming out of the previous stitch, and pull gently. So you can use the tip of the needle if you want to come in. You'll probably find that you don't go under the stitch properly. And because it's just the first row, I just want it all to sit nice and even. So I'm just kind of making sure that it's all the same tension along here. The thing you will notice very quickly, even with this first row, is that the stitches will all want to sort of bounce up and point to the ceiling. So you can see that's like wanting to curl up like that. That's okay, and that's actually what gives it this curve naturally, because it's kind of trying to follow this curve. It's a little bit annoying, but there's not really anything you can do about it, except just kind of hold it down as you go. Alright, so this is the last one on this side. The other thing you could do is once you've come up at this point, you could actually rethread your needle with a tapestry needle, so one that's got a rounded end. And if I keep poking myself in the finger, I am going to be doing that. So yeah, nothing's changed after I went around this corner here. I'm just not following these lines because they're the tips of the knitting needles. They don't have what would be yarn on them. So just remember to keep your tension quite loose, not so loose that it's looking humongous, but you don't want to be pulling so that it doesn't have any give in it. You want it to look a little loopy. Hopefully that makes sense. Don't forget to drop your thread and let it hang to unwind. I'm going to have to manually unwind mine now because it's very tangled. There we go. All right, this is the last one, the last stitch. Now to finish off this row, all we want to do is just come in slightly underneath the back stitch that we did that's parallel to this line. We want to just poke in and don't pull too tight again. And that's our first row. So I'm going to keep going with the purple. So I want to do one more row of purple. But you can do whatever you like. So we're going to start at this side again. We're not coming up on here and going back like we would if we were actually knitting. We're coming up. We're always going to come up on the left and finish on the right. It is going to cause your thread to carry all the way across the back, but all of this is going to be covered up, so don't worry about it. All right, so next, I'm going to try and zoom in for this so that you can see. Hopefully that focuses properly. So where we're going to come up, we're actually going to go underneath this little loop here. Hopefully you guys can see that. But not here, but the loop itself. So we're going to pull through, and we want the tail. I'll pull it through a bit more. We want the tail here to be underneath where the needle is, and we want to just pull it gentle. And that's how we do the next lot of rows, depending on how many you want to do. So again, underneath the loop, not in between the loops. And that's the start of our little pearls, I guess. I don't know knitting. So once again, we're not going in between the loops. We're going underneath one loop. We're not pulling too tight because we need space to be able to continue stitching the next row. Plus it won't look good if you pull it too tight. And so you can see it's wanting to sit up. So it will sit flat once we're finished. The last row actually tacks it all down. See, I did that one a little tight. That's okay. Yeah, the last row is going to tack it all down, so don't worry about it sort of curling up. So this stitch that we're doing is called the Ceylon stitch. I had to actually look up the pronunciation because I wanted to make sure that I got it right, and I probably butchered it. But it's the Ceylon stitch. See, it looks like little knitted lines. Just got all my fabric caught. There we go. Just gonna untwirl my thread again. And as you can tell, it uses up thread pretty fast. Especially carrying across the back like we do. This is tricky to see. My phone's in the way. But hopefully the close-up is helping you guys. Oh, that's super tangled. Come on, unwind, please. There we go. So if you have any questions, please say something if you're live, because this will get saved. That's why I say if you're live. This will get saved and put on my Instagram channel and on my YouTube. Alright, so that's the last line, or the last stitch of that row. So again, we're just going to, I'll just shift it so you can see, we're just going to come in, not where the last one went in, which was here. We're going to just come down a little bit, sort of the same height as the actual stitch itself. So we're just going to go in. And don't pull too tight. So looking at that, I'm actually going to do one more row of the purple. So if you're just joining me, I am not doing the same colours as the pattern for this, and that's okay. You can do whatever colours you like. So I want to keep all of my rows the same. Now, I'm going to adjust my phone again so that you can kind of see the stitches a bit better, because as you can see, they are curling up. Sorry. Okay. And I'm wondering if that will help a little bit. What about that? Ooh, that's good. Okay. So, we've got 2 rows now. The next row, we're going to do the same thing, and it's going to sit underneath the previous row's loop. Not in between like this, and not the first row like this, but we're going in the previous row's loop. And again, we want the tail to sit underneath the needles part. We're not going underneath like this. It's sitting on top so that it goes under and through, and then this goes over the top. I really hope that makes sense. Not enough words to explain it in the English language. I think this angle for the phone is a lot better, just because of it's sitting up. So while doing this, I'm noting that it was a lot easier to find the previous stitch from the previous row with the variegated floss because it was all multicolored. So if you want it to be a little bit easier, pick a variegated floss if you haven't already started. But I think a single colour is going to look very cute as well. So you can start to see the little V's all along here. That is the classic knitting sort of look and feel. I'm just going to let my needle hang again as best as I can anyway, without it in my hand. So to get into the right position, I'm like shifting apart the two stitches and then wiggling my needle underneath into the right spot. So I'm like getting the previous loop into position before I commit to pulling the needle through. And I did that one a little tight. Just remember to keep it nice and loose. Otherwise you're going to have a lot of trouble finding where to put the needle through. Alright, this is the last one. The last one is always going to be a little bit tighter. And that's just normal. Okay, so I've noticed that this loop here is a little bit too loose. So I'm actually going to just pull the tension across to where my thread is ended up now. So I'm just going to tug and then pull the rest of the tension. Okay, so I'm going to finish that purple colour there. I'm going to flip it over and tie it off. To tie it off, there's lots of thread that we can use. I like to do a double knot. Oh, I made a little loop in it by accident. Whatever. Okay, so I'm going to save that because that's actually a decent amount of purple still. I can do one more row with that amount of purple. So I'm just going to put that there. So I am going to do a little thick stripe in the middle. So I've got my 503 and we want 6 strands again. I went on a swatch maker website to get these nice colours together. And I pulled roughly about the same length, which is an arm and chest distance across. And that's going to give me, I hope, I'd be surprised if it didn't, 3 rows again. And that's what I want with the green. So just threaded my needle, we're going to do quilter's knot, 2, 3 wraps, pull it through, and that's our little knot. Now we're just going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to come up, we always come up on the left, or I guess you can start on the right if you're doing it, if you're starting it backwards from what I'm doing. Just basically start on the same direction every time. So I'm going to come up on the left And now I'm going to go into the loop from the previous row only and pull through. So again, we don't want it to be too tight. We want it to be nice and loose. But not too loose that it's gonna sit funny. And this is gonna give us a cute little stripe. Oh, I love it already. So remember, we're not going through in between the two loops. We're going underneath the loop. So you can see that there's a little, like, almost a little X. We're going underneath that whole bit. If you need to undo your work and retry, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to cut out your work. And it's okay to fail. I keep having to remind my 4-year-old that it's okay to fail. And I think it's the kind of feedback that we all need to hear, not just if we're 4 years old. So as you can see, it's already curving. It's not this like pointed end. So it does flatten out quite nicely the more rows you do. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this already, with the two colours. And I'm hoping that with the two different colours, it shows you all what it can, or what it should sit like. This one's being a bit difficult. Man, it's silent in the chat today. You guys are quiet. If you've got any questions, please speak up. Happy to help. All right, so we finished that row. Again, we're just gonna poke in and don't pull too tight. And I'm gonna start my next row back on the left. Oh, we got a big knot at the back. There we go. All right, so now I'm going in the green loops. Green loops only. Oh. Green's actually a bit better to see for you guys, I think. Hold on 1 second. Okay. My shot of the chat disappeared. I don't want to miss anyone asking any questions. So yeah, as you can see now that I've got like 5 rows, it just wants to sit up. Don't worry about that. we are going to tack it down once we're done. It's just an annoyance, basically. As I'm sure if you're stitching it, you will agree. It's just holding it down to see what you're doing is just a slight annoyance. But yeah, I really like this stitch. I want to figure out more patterns to use this stitch because it's so cute. I have one idea so far of another pattern that will use this stitch. But I've known about it for quite a while, and once I started making embroidery patterns last month, well, I guess I started making the patterns back in March, I knew I had to just base a pattern around this stitch just because I think it's really cool. Alright, I'm going to go back into the fabric. Don't pull too tight. And then come back up on the other side. I'm going to do one more row of green. And I'm just going to tighten it a little bit because I've actually made it a bit too loose. So I'm eavesdropping on my kid outside the door and what she's saying to Dad. Something just got shoved under the door. So I am just making this a little bit tighter because I have made it a bit too loose, and the middle bit where it peaks is actually a little bit too bunched up. But it is salvageable. I keep having to unwind my thread too. It's very tangled. So if you've just joined in, this stitch is called the Ceylon stitch. It's a pretend knitting stitch. I don't know knitting, so it could actually be technically how you would knit this. Oops. But I think it's really cool. Alright, so that's my 3 rows of green that I'm going to do. I'll just hold it down, you can see. It's so cute. I love it so much. Alright, I'm going to tie off my green. Again, we've got all this thread down here to work with tying it off. Do a double knot. Okay. So that's 6 rows. We want to do probably another 8 more. I'm going to do them on camera because I think 2 people say that they wish they'd seen me finish all the stitches from the last stitch along. So unless someone jumps in and says, can you slow down? I am just going to try and speed through it a bit because I do want to make sure that we get to this. And it's already 6:35. It's already 2:35. So already halfway through my time that I want to allot for this. The next stitch is going to be a lot quicker anyway. So I'm still kind of tightening the previous rows. I'm not pulling it through so that it's super tight, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get my needle in the right spot from the previous row. Oh, that's so tangled. There we go. I'm only going to get 1 row out of this last cut of purple. You will go through quite a lot of floss. If you're doing just one colour, you will go through almost a whole skein with this whole piece, which I listed in the pattern, so hopefully you're well aware of that. And that you planned accordingly. Look at that cute little stripe of colour. Isn't that gorgeous? Apparently I say gorgeous. Very funny with my accent. Even though, I'll be honest, I don't have an accent. It's all you guys that have an accent. You guys being the fact that my majority of my audience is from America. A big pull of thread again. Because I want to do another like 5-ish rows. Hopefully that angle's good for you guys to see what I'm doing. Just threading my needle. Gonna do a quick quilter's knot after it's unwound. Okay. And again, we're just going to start on the left and work our way across to the right. It's really easy after switching colours to find where the needle should go. I don't want to go in the green right now. If you pick up like 1 or 2 strands of floss, seeing as we're using all 6 strands, just to explain, from the previous, like a row up, that's okay. It's as long as you get it roughly in the right spot. That's the important thing. And you want to make sure, just to reiterate, that you don't want to go between here, between the loops. You want to go underneath the loop, the above loop. That's the main thing to remember. If you go in between, it's not going to sit right. So just to reiterate again, if you're jumping on live and not watching the replay, please, if you have any questions, please ask. There's the bonus of joining in live. If you are watching this as a replay, if you've got any questions, just leave a comment. Or if you're watching it on Instagram, you can send me a DM. If you're self-conscious or something, you don't want to ask it publicly, that's not a problem. Oh, I love this little stripe, it's so cute. It's a little bit haphazard, but so's knitting, right? This one's tricky. I made it a bit loose. There we go. A bit loose on one side and tight on the other side. Just going to unwind my thread, let it hang occasionally. Ow. Pricked myself. So you can probably see all our little rows, our columns, I guess, more appropriately, by now. Hopefully yours are looking a lot neater than mine. I'm trying not to go too slow because I want to make sure that I have time to do a second stitch today. Trying to pull it a little bit tighter now. Ow! Oh, that hurt. Scratched my thumb with the needle. On a roll today. Yeah, so as I was saying, I'm trying to pull it a little bit tighter. You can see that what it looks like when it's all tight here, rather than all like flat and even in the middle. So that's not ideal. It's one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of dealios. Oh, I drew blood. Look at that. Ouch. You can tell it's a sharp needle, I guess. I find this stitch very meditative. I really like doing it. If your little lines here and here aren't even with the amount that's left, don't worry about that. That's not a problem. You don't have, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just kind of a slight indication of where you might want to end up. I'll get one more row out of this and I'll need to cut some more off. And the little curl that happens is very frustrating in my opinion. Hopefully it doesn't bother you as much. It's a lot easier to deal with when this is being stitched in hand. And when I say in hand, I mean it's still in an embroidery hoop, but it's not attached to like this. I probably should have cut my thread. You can't really, you have to make sure that what's left is going to fill, what's left of your thread is going to fill up one row, because you can't sort of stop halfway through a row and get some more thread and have it look even. just stabbed my thumb again. I'm on a roll today. My thumb hurts a lot now. Alright, I'm not going to pull as much off this time. Because I only want to do 1, maybe 2 more rows. I might go a little bit past the pattern line. So again, if you are worried about the curl that's happening here, don't worry about it. We are going to stitch it down. That will be my last row actually. Stitching it down. Okay, I'm going to try and make this a quick one. She says as she meticulously gets the needle in the right spot. Can't help it, I want to do it properly. So I guess the takeaway for these stitches, things to remember, make sure that you come under the loop, not in between the loops for each stitch, that you don't pull too tight, but don't leave it too loose. You want to find your perfect balance and just stick with it for the entire piece. And start and end on the same row, the same side each time for each row. So whether you're going to start on the left, then start on the left for all of them, or if you're going to start on the right, then start on the right for all of them. Okay, so that's going to be my last row on top of the fabric. The last row, we're going to come up, the last row is going to tack it down, so I'm going to just change the position, put it in my way. So we're going to come up a little bit closer than the previous positions. And do the same thing, like loop it and then go in. You want to like position where you want the piece to be. So loop it and then stitch in. And then you want to come up just next to it. Go under the loop like you have been. Pull it through. And then stitch it into place. Come up. Go under the loop. And then position this way you want it. Like you want to keep making sure that you've got your your actual finished piece in the spot that you want them all to sit. Them all being all of the stitches. Oops, sorry about the bump. So as you can see, we kind of want to make it so that it's sitting over the top. We don't want it to look really jagged on the bottom. These loops can be kind of tight because you're not wanting to continue adding stitches once you're done here. Unless you want to do something fancy with the bottom of it. I think I did consider an extra stitch on this pattern, which I decided against in the end, so I thought it might be a little bit confusing. I wanted to make this a beginner-friendly piece. Man, I love this little green stripe. Kind of obsessed. So yeah, if you're just tuning in, this is we're only coming up and down through the fabric for this last row. Not sure what happened up here. I think I missed it a little bit. I missed the stitch and it's messed it up for the whole thing, which is a bit sad. As you can see, the end side is really tight, and that's because we've pulled it through at the back. All the more reason to give yourself some give and not stitch it too tight. Okay, and that's our last stitch. And that's our little scarf. It's so cute. Alright, I'm going to tie off the back. Now, because we want it to look like this is a current work in progress scarf that's being knitted, my top row, if you're using different colors like I have with this one, my top row is going to be the one that matches the string of the yarn. So this bit here and the yarn ball. So I'm going to be doing more purple. So I've still got like this much thread. I'm gonna just keep using that until I run out. And we're gonna do the little string. It's not going to take long. So, but we are at the top of the hour. And it's left a bunch of fluff. This floss, so purple all over here. That's okay. All right. So this is a stem stitch. We did this in my last stitch along. The main thing to remember with the stem stitch is you want to have your thread on the exact same side for the whole entire thing. Otherwise it's going to come out looking really strange. So we want to go in quite close for our first stem. We just got some fluff, there we go. Come up just on the side of it. And just pause there so you can all see. So we've done our tiny little stem stitch, or a seed stitch I guess is more appropriate. Then we've come up in the same point again that we started. We're coming in twice the length of this seed stitch to go back in. And now before we pull it all the way through, we want to keep this little tail so that we stay on the right side. We're coming in at the top of the seed stitch and then pulling through so that it's over the top, or if you want to do under the bottom, as long as you keep it on the same side, doesn't matter whether it's over or under this tail bit. And now we're just going to keep doing that. So I want to double this length between where it's coming out of the fabric and where I went in here, which is about there. Before I pull it through, I just hang on to it, lift it up because I'm doing mine up, come up at the top of the previous stitch and pull through. So you will want to use two hands, likely. I find it so much easier to use with two hands. So with the, actually, I don't know, I will quickly look at my pattern. I am currently using 6 strands. What have I suggested on the pattern? I suggested 4 strands. That's why I paused and looked at it. So it's quite chunky here because I'm using 6 strands. For this one I've used 4 and it's not as chunky. You can do whichever you prefer. I'm going to keep going with 6. So before I pull it through, I'm going to hang on to it and then pull it all the way through once my needle's back at the top. So similar to the back stitch, once we start getting into a tighter curve, so this bit here, we are going to want to shorten the distance a little bit. Not too much, because we want it to try and look quite uniform. But that's all the seed stitch is. As long as you keep it pulled in the same direction for the entire time, then you are set. So I'm pulling it down now because I'm not curving over the top here, I'm going underneath a circle. So it might look like I'm pulling it the wrong direction, but if I was to do it like this, then this stitch would just sit across. If I'm keeping it down, I'm keeping it in the same direction as it was up here. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm holding it down here so I can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to just go like that. Okay, just mentally keep tabs on where it should be. So I'm making that one a little bit longer, and I'm going to come up on this side here just for that one, because it's going to sit really high up if I don't do that, otherwise where it crosses over. And I'm about to run out of floss, so I will need to stop and undo. I do, now that I've done a bunch of this, I do recommend you do just 4 threads. I probably should have undone what I did and started again, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to. I'm actually going to just pull that tight there and rethread my needle. So I'm going to carry it across the back. Just a little ways. Yeah, so 4 strands would make it not sit so chunky, because we are basically doubling up the amount of strands that are there. But I don't think it looks that bad. Hopefully I'm not confusing you all. We are going off pattern quite a bit, so I apologise for that. This is, again, a do as I say, not as I do thing. Alright, now, to make sure that we continue the stem stitch so that it looks like, so it looks flawless, I guess, I'm going to come up on the wrong side, okay, the wrong side, and then, so that I'm doing that deliberately because I don't want to come up, I don't want to like shift this over and then accidentally come up in between the stitches. I'm actually going to put it then on the correct side, so now it sits perfect. And we just continue as if nothing ever happened. Oh. Where did that one come from? Oh, the green, okay. Pull through the tail of the green. Okay, my stand is sitting funny. I'll be trimming the back tonight or after this. So I've got all these little tail bits that I keep pulling through because I kept starting on this side. So don't worry about those if you see them. Yep, there's another one. So I can just grab it and pull it back through. So now we're going the opposite direction for this loop, but we're still going to make sure that we pull our thread over to the same side as we have for the entire time. It is going to sit a little differently. So we don't want to pull too tight. We want it to still sit nicely. Because if you pull too tight, then it's going to cave in on itself. And we can just use our fingers to just open it up again. That's not a problem. And I'm going to come in close to the previous line. Oh, I've confused myself. Come on. Hold on. No, I gotta trim that because it's trying to pull through and it's stuck. There we go. See, I've actually grabbed the floss that's on the back. I'm just gonna snip that out without snipping. Oh, no, I don't need to. There we go. Came out on its own. Okay. And I'm gonna jump all the way across here. And then come up, not where I came up before, but on the other side of this loop. Just kind of force it to open up a little bit. So I just stopped to make sure, and I had pulled it on the wrong side. So to fix it, I'm just going to go underneath. There we go. If you make a mistake, you can fix it straight away, but you can't fix it later on. So just keep an eye on where you're at as you go. Oh, that is so frustrating. Hang on. I'll trim them later, but for now it's just being annoying. I want it, because I keep stopping and checking the back because it's pulling through. I'm getting lost. And I keep forgetting which side I'm supposed to pull the thread. So this is what happens when you haven't let your thread just hang and unwind. You get knots. So to make sure that we don't have a little gap between this and the ball of yarn, we are going to go into the circle just a smidge. We don't need to finish it off like we would a normal stem stitch. So we would do a tiny little stitch to begin with. we can just go like this. There we go. That was brute force. Anyway, that's where we're at. That's our stem stitch and our Ceylon stitch. Ceylon stitch. Oh, I've forgotten how to pronounce it already. Hopefully yours is looking a lot neater than mine. I apologise. The purple was a lot harder to do than I imagined, but it still looks pretty cute. I'm very happy with the little green stripe. And this, I might actually unpick this, to be honest, and redo it with 4 strands, because it is a little bit too thick. But yeah, that's where we're at. We did 2 stitches today. I'm going to move my phone. So thanks for joining me, and thanks for putting up with my frustrations with what was going on. And I'm probably going to go get a band-aid for my thumb, because ouch. But yeah, that's looking really cute, and I hope yours is looking super cute too. And again, if you have any questions, let me know, either in the comments of the repost that will go up onto IGTV, or on my YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. You can also DM me if you want to ask just a private question. That's not a problem. But tomorrow we will finish it off. Tomorrow we're going to do the little ball of yarn, and we're going to finish it in the hoop. And you don't have to have a messy back like this. You can make it cute. I'll probably show you how you can make it cute. But yeah, yay! Thanks so much for joining in, and thanks so much for watching after the fact if you do, and yeah, just thank you. I really like this little pattern, it's very cute, and I will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Bye!